Hey, ladies, if you're a high achiever who's crushing it in your career, but secretly struggling with alcohol, I want you to know you are not alone. You've built an amazing life, but deep down you feel like drinking has taken control and it's frustrating, right? I get it. You've invested in yourself for years, whether it's through education, personal development, or wellness. But this feels like the one thing that's slipping through your fingers. I have something for you. My one-on-one sober coaching is now open for new clients. This program is designed specifically for women like you, strong, driven, and ready to make a change. Over the course of 8 weeks, we'll work together with a weekly Zoom call, daily check-ins, and this really helps with accountability and support to help you reclaim your power and break free from the grip alcohol has on your life. This isn't just about quitting drinking, it's about empowering you to take control, find emotional sobriety, and rediscover the best version of yourself. If you're ready to stop feeling stuck and finally make the breakthrough you've been searching for, head on over to CourtneyRecovered.com under Work With Me, where you can apply today. After you apply, you will schedule your free consult, or you can find the link in the show notes below, or just reach out to me on Instagram at Sober Vibes. You've invested in yourself before, and now it's time to do it again because you deserve a life that's free, clear, and fully yours. This is Courtney.
This is Kimberly.
You are listening to the show within the show, Livin on the Elledge.
Come live with us. We're talking about the road to recovery and sobriety and how to vibe and maintain a happy and healthy lifestyle.
Hey, welcome to the Sober Vibes podcast / LOTE. That would be Living on the Elledge. If you're new here, you are listening to episode 199, and Kimberly and I are back. Kimberly is my sister. I am her sister. She is older, and we are back to bring you a part 3 of our narcissism series because one, the response from you was great. And a lot of people said I had a mom or a dad who was narcissist. So we forgot to tell a very good story because I know that you're all sitting there and being like, oh man, poor Kimberly, which rightfully, she went through hell and back. But Kim did get that fucker back in the greatest way possible. Sister?
You just try your best. And
I
when
know.
you are a savage at heart, sometimes that inner beast comes out. You just can't help yourself. When you really at your core are a fucking animal and people just don't know who in the fuck they're playing with.
Yeah, so we forgot to drop the story because I thought about it afterwards. I was like, oh my God, we didn't even tell them about art therapy. And still to this day, one of my best friends that's the greatest Kim story ever. She was like almost pissed her pants because she was laughing so hard when I sent that to her. And then she sent it to her sister. So we wanted to share this story and kind of just retouch on if you have a narcissistic parent, because a lot of episode 1 and 2 was about being in a relationship with one and how that looks. So we wanted to touch base with parents since there was a response to having a narcissistic parent.
Yeah, let's talk about the parents first. And then if you've listened to the podcast before, our series are Stories from the Streets. That's when we just talk about being fucking animals and sometimes what pops off in these streets. We'll at the end give my story from the street, but definitely dealing with everything starts from somewhere. So we are products of our parents, products of our environment. And when you sit back and think and you're like, God, it's sometimes for me personally and Courtney too, it's hard to grapple with sometimes where it's like the two people who decided to bring you into this world and made the decision of having a child. It hurts sometimes knowing that the people who are supposed to love you and protect you the most are the first people who truly hurt your feelings and struck that first wound. So doing some inner child work and stuff, I've definitely grappled with that. And it's hard when the cycle has continued. And finally, for my sister and I, we're in our 40s and finally have Courtney longer than me. Has put down some serious boundaries, but still gets her fucking feelings hurt from time to time. Because she is a human being, you guys. She's not such a stone cold bitch. She's got feelings, this one.
And I've shared too when I've done my solo episodes, especially about being a mom. Those wounds have been reopened. I definitely was able to tuck them away and just work on them and be fine. And then when you have a kid, these motherfucking wounds open back up and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, because you're probably looking at that young little dictator, that sweet little commie, and like just think about yourself at that age and it's wow. Or when he's a teenager and I could never let my child go through something like this or treat him a certain type of way or not help his emotional needs or just abandon him. It just, and then you think about it, I'm sure I don't have children, but I can understand where that would be like triggering at times. And just even the nurturing that you give CJ. I tell you all the time, you're a fabulous mother, and the energy and the love and the nourishing that you put into CJ is like, it's cool to watch. So as much as I like watching him, I really do enjoy what you and Matthew are doing as parents, because you guys are pretty fucking locked in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would like to share the story about how going back to parents and how they're like the first ones to hurt your feelings. And I don't know if I've shared this. If I'm repeating myself, I don't care. We're at 199 episodes. It's a pretty big deal. So when I started potty training the dictator, I then was in the process in those couple days. I did the 3-day potty train him for 3 days in a row, but you're always potty training, especially in that first year or two. So when in the midst of this potty training, I had a memory that I had not thought of in a very long time. And it was kind of one of my first memories. And I wet the bed. So I was like 3 or 4. Okay. I wet the bed. And my dad came in to wake me up to go to preschool and to get up. And I didn't want to get out of bed. And I said that I had a headache, that I didn't feel
You
good.
almost said hangover.
Yeah. I had a headache and I didn't feel good and I didn't want to go to school. And he said to me to get up, and then discovered that I peed the bed. And his response to me was that he was pissed, that he was angry that I wet the bed. Okay. So this is like a child's first memory. But the fact that I sat there and lied to this man at 3-4 years just shows you what type of conditioning was going on, because I was scared of him. So now to go through that, like I've never, even when my sweet little, even when my sweet little muffin pooped his pants at Red Lobster.
Oh my God, dude. What the fuck, bro? That was wild.
And I had to clean all of that up in the bathroom of Red Lobster, which was fine, right? I could never imagine getting mad at him and having that big of physical response to somebody, to a child peeing the bed. And then now that is one of my first memories that I held on to for a very long time, stopped and didn't think about it for years upon years, right? And then now having to potty train, when I potty trained him back in the springtime, it was like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. Yikes. And it wasn't like that he was, it's more what pisses me off is the conditioning that you were afraid and didn't feel safe to tell him. Like we were supposed to just be perfect.
And
like perfect little robots.
Yeah, and that's what's really fucked up, because it's, dude, that again, this is at 3 or 4 years old of me remembering this. It's,
I don't know how you remember this shit, bro. Like it is fucking crazy. Your memory is bravo. As we talked about, I also don't care if I repeat myself, but I have to, I really do love, I fuck with Courtney with her memory. She's like some idiot savant, like Rain Man, but I do appreciate that she does have like the memory, because I suppress so many from trauma from childhood. So it's like certain things I just can't, my brain, I just don't remember. And then I feel like a different form of Rain Man. I just can't remember. So Courtney remembering that, I don't know. It's weird how brains work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have trauma brain, so it like protects you. I'm sure. But even when I got sober, man, there would be times where, and even a couple years in, like I would then remember something from my active addiction days where it was like really unsafe, some sexual assault, and I'm like, fuck. It was almost like you were living in it in PTSD. It was like, this was like 20 years ago, right? So that's just the trauma brain, I believe, what happens. And then in these moments of clarity, you remember. But that one about peeing in the bed definitely had always stuck with me for some time because it's one of your first memories and of a person you're supposed to like trust and feel safe. And they're pissed off at you because you peed the bed. Do you know that some kids pee the bed up until they're like 8, 9, 10 years old because there is a hormone in their brain that does not develop yet and takes later time? Like some kids have to take medicine for it. And it's the hormone that like would wake them up to be like, you got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude, at the end of the night, it's just a little pee. Like people drink their pee now because it's supposed to be like one of the best things for you. I know it sounds disgusting, but it's supposed to be very good for like hydration and stuff.
No, I heard that, dude.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast and I said, what did this motherfucker just
Yeah.
say? Like, I had to rewind it. And it's like a thing.
It's a
And
thing.
then some people are putting like pee on their face to clear up acne.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. So when I was potty training him, like even in that book, it was like, don't get freaked out by pee. Like pee's actually very clean. And I was like, oh, it's still gross. But
Yeah, because it like filters through like your kidneys and stuff. Like I get it, but I don't think I'll be drinking piss anytime soon. I'll just be doing these electrolyte packets you give me.
That's what I'm saying. People who have the fetish with being peed on. I do not understand. What if somebody is very dehydrated and their pee just reeks?
And it looks like just a cup of ramen noodle soup broth. Yuck. Yuck.
And that's your sexual turn on. So, okay. So, yes. So that is with the parents. And again, I reference it, I believe, in part 2, but there is a wonderful book if you are struggling with your parents and it's adult children of unemotionally available parents. It will be in the link in the show notes. You can check it out. It's a good one because once I read that, I was like, my mind was like, it blew up because I'm like, this makes so much sense. And it sets such a boundary of, doesn't even set a boundary. It's the expectations of, oh, these people are just emotionally numb.
Yeah.
And like, even too, we've had some things, my sister and I've had some things recently that have transpired with my parents separately. And Kim and I.
Separately, but same.
But the same.
It's so uncanny. It's two people who have pitted their kids against each parent their whole lives. Like, just like it's like War of the fucking Roses, bro. It's crazy with these two. They just hate each other. But they are so much the same that it's crazy. So then I started looking at it, I was like, oh, like you guys like hate yourselves. Because like you can see like they see like that version of each other in each other.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's real uncanny to watch. Like I'm like, like just when things just start making sense and clicking. And I'm sure it comes also with age. It comes with understanding like generational trauma and like psychology and the whole bullshit. And then you trying to get healthy and going on some sort of spirituality coming into play. And when you just see things for what it is, it's just, it's been inspiring in a sense where it's, oh, I can fucking breathe. Like, not saying it's right how, for me and my sister, I'm speaking like for things that happen to us and, you know, how our parents are as human beings, but it starts to make sense where you can actually take the emotion out of it and wrap your fucking brain around it. Doesn't mean it's not hurtful. Doesn't mean it's not, you wish that they were better and tried to be better in some cases, which in some cases they've tried, but it's only to their capacity. That's all that they are capable of. So you just really have to manage your expectations. And it really does suck when it is your actual parents. Courtney and I say it all the time. We're super blessed to still have them alive and around, but
lay back down, Colin.
Oh, Dictator's trying to get up
lay back down.
In the middle of the pod. I'll commentate here. Courtney's talking to him through his little camera. And I'm sure he hears his TT and his mama talking, and this guy wants to be in the mix always. He is in the mix.
He also, too, got into our bed at 1 a.m. last night. And then he actually, this was the first time ever at nighttime, he like leaked completely through his nighttime undies, is what I call him. It's just a nighttime diaper. And then he wanted to, he was like talking for 2 hours. I was like, dude, go to bed. And he didn't want to go back into his room. Of course, I changed him, but oh God, I'm like, aren't you tired? This toddler energy is beyond. Okay, but go on, Tim.
Toddler boy energy. Yeah, okay. So then this comes full circle of what just happened last night. Like instead of Courtney being a dick and my sister at a certain time when she gets tired, like when Courtney's
Right.
yeah, when Courtney has a button and when she's fed up, there's even been times on the FaceTime where it's like I go outside and like the Wi-Fi and she'll just get frustrated because I'll be like freezing. And instead of like just holding on for 2 seconds to wait for me to go back in my house so my Wi-Fi can relink, she just gets pissed. Just call me when you're in the house. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And then she just hangs up. And I'm like, I'm not calling that bitch for nothing. We'll talk tomorrow. God, the fact that she doesn't lash out and and she's human. We're all human, but doesn't look at him and try to condition him to not do something and be perfect. And he's just let him be. And for us, like we always say, like before my parents got divorced, like our parents, we didn't go without anything, but there were expectations on us. My parents were from the South and we needed to make them look good. So we had to be perfect at a dinner table. We had to be perfect at parties. We had to fucking always look at the Ralph Lauren catalog of how we were dressed. And there was really no like individualism and it was picturesque. And that's just what my parents wanted to portray. And there was no room for stepping out of line when the manners were spot on. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. And we're from the South. Like all of my siblings were born in the South. My parents are from the South. So definitely how we were raised. I can appreciate manners, but there is no room for error.
There wasn't.
At all.
There wasn't. You would get, if you said fuck, or a swear word, you would get the soap in the mouth if we acted out of line. And this is, the conditioning to be like, just be able to sit there at Chi-Chi's and Red Lobster and Olive Garden. You guys were taken back to the 80s and 90s. Okay. It's like to
Straight
sit
up.
there and we were going to, and we sat there and it was like, if you started acting amok, our mom would look at us and be like, do you need to go to the bathroom? And it was just one
No.
look.
Do you want to go to the bathroom and tangle?
Oh, was that what she said?
Mm-hmm. I
Okay.
remember that. She'd be like, you need to go to the bathroom and tangle. And that means she was going to fuck you up in the bathroom. And it was just, it never got to that point, but it was just like.
But the conditioning of one person saying like a line like that. And again, I hope that sharing this is everybody, I believe, has some type of, not everybody, but I believe majority of people, especially our generation, the generation above us and some below us, right? Because the parenting is a little bit different nowadays, but if you had a boomer parent, I think this is going to, you're going to really resonate with this conversation because it was of that generation of we are dealing with a generation who does not have the emotional capacity. Also, too, because I look at it as generational thing. Also, too, because they were raised by stone cold killers.
Mm-hmm.
People who lived through a Great Depression, people who signed up willingly to go fight 3 wars, right? And our grandfather was a sergeant major in the Marine Corps. This man was in Pearl Harbor, for Christ's sakes. I think he served.
We got the Purple Heart, dude.
Yeah. So there's some things when my mother talks about her childhood, I look at it because a lot of the times I'm like, I don't know what's real and what's not, where I just look at it from his position of, fuck, dude, this man swam with sharks as the water was on fire. Let's just take a look at that because nowadays we empathize with soldiers of what they have done. So it's like looking back at that, it's okay. Not saying it's right, but the times are just different. So they were raised by stone cold killers. And then you take that generation, and I truly do believe, because if you talk with people across the board who are children of boomers, majority of them had this sweet, loving relationship with their grandparents. I think the greatest generation, their second chance was their grandkids.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Give
agree.
them that love and that nurturing, because that's what I experienced. That's what you experienced. And many, many people of my gal pals and Matt experienced with his grandparents.
Yeah, we had to go run to our grandparents to take solace for the menaces that they raised. So I think they were given a do-over with their grandkids of Generation X and around with ours. Yeah, when you sit back and just take a look at it, but it's still okay. So you understand what's going on, but then it's like then there's like the reality and the emotion and then the attachment to your parent, and you got to fucking figure out like the fine line there. And then you're dealing with, parents with addictions and who both have personality traits like narcissists, and it's a very interesting way to move, and you got to figure out how to move with them. And it's just Courtney and I still, it's like a push pull with them. It's like you give them an inch, they take a mile, and then you put down boundaries, and then they say okay, and then the next month they're just back on some fuck shit. So I definitely have come to the conclusion with our parents specifically that they're not changing. They are who they are. God bless them. They tried their best. They really did with the tools that they had. And the 80s were a no nonsense era. People were just like out here doing the most. And my parents definitely got caught up in that. And then post divorce, it was just like War of the Roses. So we were used as pawns. And it makes it very confusing when you want to start to get like healthy and understanding, oh, this is why I subscribe to certain relationships. This is why this fucking feels healthy for me, because that's what I shown love was. Oh, you get called a cunt? That's normal. What do you mean? You know what I mean? So then it's just like realizing that these things are not normal and that you don't deserve it. And where do you go from there? Where do you go? Where did you go from there, Courtney?
Listen, I will say that my husband, Paul, is a good guy. So
Yeah,
when
he is.
him and I started dating, I was still in my active relationship with alcohol. And then coming out of it, I will say it felt very uncomfortable to be with a good man.
He's a good man. Oh,
Right. But it's
he's
true.
a good man, Savannah.
That was uncomfortable for me for a while. I mean, even
It
in
was
my
uncomfortable for me too, because I was like, what is up with this guy?
Yeah. So, and I dated dudes before that who had their own drug and alcohol issues or were just garbage pig men and, used me for sex and used whatever they could get from me. So, with Matt was a game changer, but it was, and even too, like when Matt would get me gifts, I was like, I don't deserve this. Like, this is uncomfortable, right? Or if he would pay me a compliment, I'm like, yeah, okay. Now, when he wants to give me gifts or pay me a compliment, I'm like, tell me again.
Yeah. Excusez-moi, sir.
Tell me again. So, yeah, it was very hard. And I have to say this, like, even before I had the dictator, I was very nervous about, I don't want to say, it wasn't nervous. It was, I questioned myself of my love, that if I was going to be able to have this unconditional love that was not met with conditions. And I'm like, am I going to be able to have that maternal instinct?
Say
Because
that again.
what?
Say that again. If I was able to have this unconditional love that was not met with conditions.
Yeah.
Snap. I like that. I never heard you say that.
But you know how my brain thinks. It
Well,
takes me sometimes a couple of years to get something out, but that's of how I was feeling. But that's how I felt, because to be honest, before he was born, I was at a point of a relationship, and this is God's honest to truth, that yes, I do love my mother, but I don't have it's almost like the cord has been cut because there's been so much emotional trauma and
Yeah.
the shoe has been dropped so many times that I and Kim doesn't either have this like lovey-dovey relationship with your mom. And there was a time when my mom, it was after Colin was born, I think, or maybe before. And she was over. No, it was before him. She was over for a holiday and was trying to help me clean up. And Kim and I are so used to just taking care of her, where I was like, please go sit down. And then she was like trying to have this like loving moment with me in the kitchen. And I did not know where to look. Like she was like trying to hold on to my hand. And I'm like, ah!
Yeah. Courtney's a little more like standoffish emotional, which I don't understand. I don't know. I'm like a touchy person and stuff. And even with Courtney, like something like I know her boundaries. Courtney still take your shirt, like nudity bothers her. I'll take off my, like, to just take, Courtney's just wired different. You know what I mean? So, like, when she was telling this story about Debbie, I started laughing. And she's like, it's just, I didn't know where to look. And I know exactly like how my sister was feeling and like what, because it makes her uncomfortable. And it's like Debbie was just trying to have a moment. And that's how she was feeling in the moment. But when everything it's very transactional with our parents. So when they're trying to be like nurturing and parents, it throws us off and we're like, what the fuck? What it makes it's uncomfortable and you don't know where to look. And then you're like, am I the asshole? It makes you question yourself, but it's no, dude, fuck that. I'm just not used to it. And then you're like, are they angling for something? What's going on? Is the other shoe going to drop? Am I going to have this nurturing moment? And then in the next sentence, I'm going to be completely like some backhanded comment where I told I'm just like an ungrateful piece of shit. What's going on here? So I'm sure that brought up a lot of emotions in the kitchen.
It did. I just wanted to get the dishes done. You know what I mean? I just wanted to clean up after the godforsaken fucking Thanksgiving. Then I hate that holiday and it should be banned. But whatever, other people love it. And I think that's what it was. She was over for Thanksgiving, and this was before I put my foot down and still tried to please her and whatnot. But anytime something's happened with her and she's needed us, we've been there. So it might sound this might sound confusing to people who don't have that type of relationship with their parent, where you get it because you still want, at the end of the day, as you still want some fucking like love and acknowledgement. Like to this day, they haven't read my book. The only person who's read my book in my family is my sister, which thank you. And thank you for that review. And thank you for the support. But
How are you not gonna? I finally ordered Chad's book. Our brother published a book too, and I just whatever. I was like paying some bill, whatever. It didn't get on Amazon because once I go on Amazon, I'll start shopping. I have to like chill. I've read Chad's and I'm going to read it. Courtney and I asked Chad in the summer if he ever listened to our podcast, and he told us no. I was like, because we were talking about having him on the show, and he was like, "Oh, I would love that." And then I was like, "Have you ever listened to our podcast? What do you think you're signing up for?" And he's, "No, I haven't." But Courtney and I support everybody in the family. Whatever business venture you want to go on, we're there. We're supporting. We're throwing money at it. We're posting on socials. We're about that shit. And then Courtney and I, who have started as a passion project, and we enjoy what we're doing. It's good for us, and we're relating to the people and everything. But yeah, our family, none of them fucking listen to it. That's why we can talk so much shit on here and be so transparent, because there's going to be no fallout. Even if there was, even if they did, it's Courtney had me come to terms with it because it's our truth. It's her truth. It's my truth. So I'm going to tell it how it is, how I see it. So I would still talk the same. Some family dinners once a year that we show up to might be a little uncomfortable, but I don't really give a fuck. But knowing definitely that they don't listen to this shit is even better.
So, and I said nice things about them in that book. That's the whole thing. I was trying to explain what?
You did.
I did. I didn't say all this. That's for when they're gone. Then I'll explain it. But it's like floors me. And then even too, before my book came out, my dad wanted me to give him a free copy. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Bust out your debit card and pay the $22. It's just because it's just the level of support. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
you will not pay for your daughter's $22 book. Like, do you not understand the publishing world? You dumb F-U-C-K. That's how I felt. And then my feelings were hurt in that moment because and when that came out, the dictator was not about to turn 2. I couldn't imagine if he came to me and was like, Mom, I got a book deal, badass, it's coming out. I would be like, motherfucker, send me that link. I'm buying 500 copies. Colin, go back to sleep.
Oh,
Go back into your bed.
he heard us talk.
You still have quiet time left.
Mhm.
He's not going to sleep today, you guys.
No, he's not.
But that's the type of thing where it's just, what? It's mind-blowing. It's just because we're not talking about a man who doesn't have money.
Correct.
But then here's the kicker on that. Then brother writes a book about golf, and he's the first one to let me get a copy, blah, blah, blah. But because of the topic is the topic of it, and I have been a threat to that person since 2012 because I chose to quit drinking and our relationship has changed, then there's an issue.
Oh, my child has now decided to hop off me on the chair, Drexel, as you all know, and now he's on the floor. Yeah, that book of yours and Chad's book of golf, apples and oranges, bro. And your book would actually have to have him take some responsibility and like the enabling for the drinking of all the years. And I truly believe that they didn't read it because they were scared that something was going to come out of that book.
Oh, I know. I told him though at the book party. I was like, I wrote about it how he used to pick me up after therapy on Mondays, and we would go out to eat, and then it was a nice bonding time. And then I encourage people to do something like that after their therapy session, like not go out to eat with their daddies, but just to go do something afterwards.
Yeah.
Go get a pedicure, go decompress in some way. And same thing with Mom. I've gotten my work, my entrepreneurship from her. I learned from her and how she's quit drinking in the 80s and how she was actually my first sober woman reference. You know what I mean? And watched her do life and still continue to travel and do her thing without alcohol.
Yeah, my mom was a force, a beast with her business. Unfortunately, her decision making and some things is now where she's at, and that's okay. But my mom is definitely like an inspiring person in me and my sister's life, even though sometimes we can't stand her ass, but she was a real one. We also are the way we are because of our parents. They instilled like great values into us, but yeah.
So what would be something? So if you're like, all right, well, thanks for just trauma dumping about your. But this is the thing, though, because our parents do have the narcissist personality traits in them. That is a big spider, sister.
You guys, we're recording and I'm sitting in my room where I record from in my chair. And I don't know. Am I in Australia right now? What is that? We're just going to let it do its thing. We're just going to let it do its thing. I'm just going to pretend it's not there. It's fine.
I really want to go to Australia one day, and that's a trip you and I will do.
I can't get into Australia, bitch. What do you mean? No, I'm a felon. They won't even let people in with drunk driving. I can't get into Canada. I can't get into Australia. There's a couple other on the list that I can't get into. I'm sure Russia. You're going to have to go to Australia on your own.
Okay. So I need somebody to tell me who's listening from Australia. What do you do with those big spiders? Because aren't those things just in the streets, like even in the city? These fucking big ass spiders. I don't get it.
You just coexist with them, bro. You're like used to them, and then they'll jump at you. I went down a wormhole on TikTok over these things, and whew, no, thank you. If this thing falls on my bed, you know how I am with bugs. I'm gonna have to burn it. I'm gonna have to get a new bed, and you know how many times I rebuy furniture.
She does.
I have no problem.
She does
doing it again.
She's about to get a new couch soon after she bought one like 3 years ago. So
a year ago.
So how would you then recommend for a person to deal with parents who are narcissists and to really, because, okay, and I will say, I think this is a lifelong process with healing wounds, especially too if parents are still in your life. I will say, I have heard also too from people I've talked to on the podcast and people I've just known in the streets of friends and whatnot, like that some of their parents who were heavy alcoholics, like they had said that that was a peaceful day for them when their parent had passed away.
That's a hard reality, bro. But when it comes to like suffering and the way someone's quality of life and the way that they're living, and I've said it before, it's, sometimes it's like your heart, it's like grieving someone. There's people who I know who have suffered hard and I just feel like this life wasn't for them and they're going to come back on the next one and it was just too much. So when they did pass, it was like I felt a sense of peace for them. I think, and that's a hard one to say, and it's like people can take it a certain type of way, but it's in some cases it might be true. They're no longer suffering and living that existence and they're finally at peace. And for some people that is the case. And it makes me super sad to think that somebody can't get help or hasn't healed traumas or gotten over addictions and that like they finally found peace in death. But I do think that is the reality for some people. I really do.
And that their child found peace in them finally going to the other side because of the pain that they endured.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a true statement when everyone feels entitled to feel how they feel. So if that's like their truth, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And as somebody sitting there, if I were to hear that statement, I wouldn't think of them as a bad person, like, oh, yourself or this or that, because, there's some points of that statement that I can resonate with.
Yeah.
I would just be like, that makes a lot of sense. And you must have had to go through a lot of pain to get to that statement.
To feel that way.
Yeah, to feel that way. And it's just sitting back and listening and having empathy and understanding and listening with an open heart and without judgment and not taking it to the extreme. This is what I don't like about people, these motherfuckers out here. You try to talk and be like vulnerable and you're like trying to say something and they just skip the whole part and just take it to the hardest extreme. And you're like, that is not what I was saying. Like, okay, maybe that's what I was saying a little bit, but like, people just don't listen. They don't listen with an open heart. And it's very frustrating.
Yeah. And with an awareness.
Yeah, with an awareness or any emotional intellect. And I find myself now with those people, like I can't even fuck with them. If it's outside of a professional basis, like in my personal life, like you are not my people and I can't mess with you. Sorry. No, thank you. Pass. Because like just the hard judgments and just disregarding someone's feelings or story or emotions, like that just doesn't work for me. I could never. But the narcissistic parent, let's take it to our situation. We have two brothers who have completely cut our mother off, who that's their boundary. There's been so much hurt and on both sides, there's been so much time has passed that now it's neither one really has the patience or where it all went wrong or like that, because memories fade. And to get down to the actuals, both my brothers, they do not, and Courtney's brothers, we have the same brothers, obviously, we're sisters, and they absolutely do not mess with my mom. My older brother does not even like return text. And yeah, their boundary on mom is to not. They do not. She is not involved in her grandchildren's life. And besides my brother's oldest, who my mom was fully there for with our niece, Caitlin. And so she's still involved with Caitlin, but Caitlin's also 22 years old. And she is old enough to make the decision and Brett would never put that boundary down on to have Caitlin not be in mom's life. Like he's not a stone cold killer, but yeah, that's their boundaries with our mother. Their boundaries with I find it sometimes annoying that their boundaries with our father don't align because it's been the same abuse from my dad, just different, and the conditioning. So it's a different relationship. So what they do to my mom with my dad is different, but that's for them. That's not for us to decide what their boundaries should be. With a narcissistic parent or a toxic parent, it's like, where do you move? And I've struggled with it with the boys because for me, I have a hard time. I can never just abandon my parents. And I don't look at it as abandoning, but if you have to have boundaries and what works for your life, I finally let go and trust in the boys' decision with that's what they need to do for their quality of life. And they're both married and have children. So that's what works for them. You do what you got to do. My boundaries with my parents have definitely changed in the past 7 years. So it's just, and I manage my expectations with them because you got to.
Okay.
Or you're going to continuously get your feelings hurt over and over, and it's going to be that same toxic cycle.
Yeah, because as when you get healthier, it no longer feels good to take part in that because then you're like, oh, this is the part I've been playing, and like I don't want to. And here's the thing that shifted, and especially too in the last couple weeks, but it's been a while, and I know for you too, like. Coming from a place of fearing parents, where I feared both of my parents, and now coming to a place where it's, I don't give a fuck. I'm not scared of you guys anymore. And you don't held, and that's where when we were talking about transactional in the beginning, a lot of stuff for us was in the condition of the way of, if you do this for me, you will get this. That's how a lot of it was, like even down to, and this is why my sister and I have such a fucked up relationship with food, even down to how we were fed. That we had to complete tasks and even in order to fucking eat dinner or get lunch. Like we used to have to pass out these, and like you would look at this now, and I've looked back at it before, and it's like, this is a layer of child abuse, of emotional child abuse. Like, and this is where I truly think that there's definitely an epidemic and fucking physical and sexual abuse, but what nobody talks about is this emotional abuse. That's where I think a lot of people will resonate with this conversation of emotional abuse from the parents, because it was always like, you had a roof over your head, you grew up middle class, you didn't go without, okay, but on the other end, it's no, I did go without food. I went without to my emotional needs being met. So it's where I really encourage anybody to read that book that I suggested. But it's one of those things. So like that transactional, and that's where I'm at as an adult now. It's like, you fuckers, I don't owe you shit. You have nothing more to hold over my head of what you have done for me. Everything, even too, like even working, like my mother used to get child support from my father and then would tell us to, like, if we needed something, go ask our father. Then he would tell us no. And it was like, and then we couldn't get the thing that we needed. And we didn't understand it, that it's like she was getting so much money a week and was spending that on her and not us, you know? So it was very confusing. And we also had a time where when our parents got divorced, I was 7 and no other parents were divorced yet. And so there was none of this like modern family, like let's blend and let's co-parent in a healthy way. My mom tried, but then I think that both of them, just because they're twinsies, could not, they just hated each other.
We've all been there. You say you've never drinking again, and then you drink. But would you still drink if those closest to you knew? You need something to make you pause before taking that first sip. You need SoberLink. SoberLink devices have built-in facial recognition and tamper sensors and send instant results to those closest to you, making it an incredible accountability tool. You know me, I love accountability. Devices are also portable, and tests are always scheduled, never random, allowing you to test from anywhere but still on your own time. Maybe you need SoberLink to save your marriage. Maybe you need it to give to your ex-husband for when he has the kids, so you can test him so he can hold himself accountable. Or perhaps you just need something to keep you on track. Whatever the case may be, if you're in early recovery from alcoholism, this tool is a must and by far one of my most favorite recommendations. I've witnessed people benefit from SoberLink, and I want you to be the next. Visit www.soberlink.com/sober-vibes to sign up and receive $50 off your device. You have to use the link. So you can also visit the link in the show notes under SoberLink, and it will take you directly to your website, and the $50 will be applied at checkout. Exact Nature is a proud sponsor of the Sober Vibes podcast because we are both mission aligned. Both myself and Exact Nature are here to help support you in your sobriety. Exact Nature offers safe, healthy CBD-based products of the cravings and changes in mood, focus, and sleep that are a part of getting sober. Founded by a father and son team, both in recovery, this issue is personal for both of them, and they are a dream, the nicest people. Their oils, soft gels, and gummies can help with the challenges of quitting alcohol and drugs, like addictive cravings, depression, anxiety, and better sleep. Exact Nature's products are independently lab tested, so you can be confident you're getting what the labels say. And all their products are value priced, so you'll get a full month of serving in every bottle. As a Sober Vibes listener, use code SV20 at checkout for 20% off your order at exactnature.com. That's exactnature.com. And as always, I will put the link in the show notes below. I have been using Exact Nature for, I think at this point, 1.5 years, maybe almost 2 years for a long time. I use it every day, and it has by far helped me with my mood. Again, exactnature.com. Enjoy.
Yeah, they get it together and make it work.
They get it together for the kids. Like, even to this day, it's always, is your mother coming? Is your father going to be there? It's, oh my God, you guys are in your 70s at this point. Come together for your grandkids and your kids, because this might be the last time that you see all of us together. That's where we're at. But it's
Yeah, get it the fuck together.
So it's just one of those things that it's very, it's looking back at it. It's a lot of emotional needs were not met, and it's, if you could look at it today, you would be like, that was child abuse. That was neglect. It was neglect. It was straight neglect.
Yeah. That's why we're so like crafty and can always, you always say this, like even in my hardest times, you're always, I think you took solace in Kimberly's going to be fine, because I took the role in the house with the kids where it's, I would go and figure it out for food, or I would go get groceries and get stuck at the grocery store waiting outside for 3 hours with my cart, like, and waiting for mom to finally come and show up. Or I would always like just figure it out. I learned how to just figure it out at a very young age and on certain things. And so in my adult life, everyone just knew that I was going to be okay, because I would always pull myself out of it and figure it out. Now knowing, it's like that was hypervigilance and a trauma response because of how I had to learn how to figure it out when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So like hyper independence, and I am, because I'll just get it done by myself. And I always feel like bad asking for something. And also with my parents, I was like, hey, do you need anything? And then when you finally use your words and you're like, actually, yeah, I could use, like, and then it's, oh, no. And then you just get ghosted until you're the one who like reaches out because you had the audacity to answer their question when they ask if you need anything. It's a fucking damnedest thing. I'm just like, oh my God. That's why I just don't ask. And I know Courtney was not used to people like showing up for her. So when, she started dating my brother-in-law, it's like he would show up and he would offer to help. And it was just like probably very bizarre. Like what?
It was.
And then we're assholes and we're like, what the fuck is up with this pussy? What is going on? And he was not a pussy. He's a grown man and is like a good guy.
Yeah. And I have to say, it wasn't until I broke this a couple of years back where I stopped asking for, I stopped doing the asking for something and then I'll do this in return. That was a very hard one for me to ask because because that's how I was raised. If you have to ask for something, you need to give something in return. And that's like terrible. So I finally stopped that with him. And which he noticed. And of course, was like supportive of it. And was like, yeah, just because you ask for something doesn't mean like you don't always need to give something in return. I'm like, that's what I've been used to. Like when that is what you're used to, of even just my mom owned her own business from home. And I used to have to go run these errands for her, go to the post office, go to her P.O. box.
Oh my God, bro. Don't even get me started.
I know, but this is just what I'm comparing to. And then it was like, after you do this, then you can here's $20 to get you and myself something to eat, bring it home, and then you can use my car for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
This is high school age. And it was like, okay, I was there and I was able to do these errands for her. So it's just, and that's what I then was like, oh, if I wanted the car for a night, I would be like, all right, do you want me to run any errands today? And are you hungry? Because I am.
Right.
I haven't eaten anything yet. Like, still, my husband can't believe the food stories I tell him. He truly cannot.
Yeah.
Because it's wild.
It is wild.
But,
Matt is constantly bewildered by our stories.
Oh, he's bewildered. But again, I know my sister and I know that, yes, people have had it worse, but I won't ever take away from what we experienced and our emotional neglect and needs that were met. And this is just the type of parents that we dealt with. And we all have a story.
Yep. Everyone's got a story.
We all have a story. And that's why I like to tell too, especially women that I coach with 101, anybody. That's what happened to you and that's your truth. And it affected you in this type of way. And you don't need to constantly keep being like, I should be grateful. People have it worse. Yeah, but then that's neglecting your feelings then you're saying that what happened to you doesn't matter. And it was still some type of trauma.
Right.
And then that's why too, like when you start getting into that cycle as well of when the shoe is going to drop, that is often conditioned from the two people who fucking created you or raised you, especially if they were that type. And when you get into parents who are alcoholics, parents who have mental health issues, that fucking chaos that you fall in line with, then you take that into your life. And it never feels normal just to be until you start getting off of that fucking train.
Mm-hmm.
And you even have to start doing that for yourself, of where you have to stop creating the chaos for yourself. And that's where a lot of people are born into a chaotic situation. And that is what then, like, still to this day, my fight or flight was kicking in a couple days ago.
Yeah.
I texted my sister, I was like, prepare for impact. Because I feel like a little breakdown is going to either happen this holiday season or come spring. And it's been a couple of years. So like the timing in some situation that's been starting to happen, I'm like, this is feeling eerie and my shoulders are about to go up in my ears. And that's the power of fucking PTSD when you're still living in that same cycle. That's what's crazy.
Yeah. It's like it's already like when we were talking about what was going on currently with our family dynamic, like I already went into that fight or flight mode where it's like thinking about how like it's that trauma brain. Because Courtney and I have spent many holidays alone because chaos has ensued in our family around the holidays. Chaos. So I already was like thinking, I was like, okay, how is it going to look if I'm just here alone at Christmas? Okay, I can do another Christmas alone. It's fine. I just don't want to deal. It's too much. And then I find myself start shutting down and retreating and disassociating. And I'm like, no, fuck that. We're not doing that anymore. So Kimberly, reel it in, get it together. And you don't start self-sabotaging because you're retreating because you don't have the capacity anymore to deal with any chaos. Because then that's not fair for me. And then I don't get to engage because I'm like, resorting to old like trauma responses. So there's a lot when you're dealing with toxic, narcissistic parents. It's a lot of damage has been done, and it's psychological, and it's psychological warfare, and it impacts you into into adulthood, even like from the past, from this little narcissistic series. When it ran into a 3-parter, we appreciate you guys for listening. We're use it as a little bit as a therapy session, because we're so like, there's like layers to this shit, right? So it's like, I even have to think about it like going into my next relationship, and really heal, because like I'm dating to marry at this point. Like I'm not out here trying to have some little ting tings and little fucking, it could be fun and all, but in my life where I'm at right now, like I just turned 45 years old last week. So like I am really like serious into dating, looking for a partner. So I really want to get like all of my shit together so that I am not the toxic one in a relationship when the universe finally sends me my fucking dude. I don't want to be that, and then me self-sabotage something good because of like layers and layers of trauma and dealing with narcissists and thriving in chaos. And I don't want that life for myself. So I really have to be in tune and get that emotional intelligence and not sabotage with my issues issues, because it's real easy to do. And I saw myself and Courtney's talking about like some shit's been popping off with our parents. So around the holidays, so I went into that like trauma brain of like how I was like reacting, and I had to catch myself real quick. And that's just like emotional intelligence and self-awareness. So adding these like tools that I've learned, I'm definitely going to have to be a little bit hyper vigilant in a relationship to make sure that I do not self-sabotage, because like I said, I'm looking for a partner, and I'll be damned if I fucking waste more years of my life on some unemotional, unintelligent fucking shitbag. So I have to meet him when he comes with the same level of emotional intelligence that I'm expecting. And it's not easy. It's not for the weak, because it's really easy to be toxic and chaotic and all of the things. It's very easy to do that.
It is very easy. So if you have parents, I would highly suggest go to therapy, seek out a coach that deals with these topics, because that's the only way of talking through it. And talking through it is going to help you. Okay, let's wrap this up because I'm being beckoned, but we got to tell the story. Kim, this is your stories from the streets.
My stories from the streets.
Yes, your story from the street of your vengeance, even though you ended up back with him, which is, I think, is amazing that he took you back afterwards. But Kim had her art therapy. Take it away, TT.
This was a form of reactive abuse. This man had pushed me to the edge of it. So it was one Christmas where we were back together. And
You're talking.
I'm talking.
She's talking. Ready?
You're talking.
She's going to explain her stories from the street. You guys, he can't hear TT because I have my earphones in, so he's not going to hear this if somebody's good Lord. You're
okay, good. I was going to say, I
no.
want CJ to hear this story.
No, you can't hear. No, you just. Okay, go get your headphones.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Go on, TT.
Go get them. So one Christmas, we were back together. We had a great Christmas. We had gotten back together, and he was in it. Said he loved me, this and that. And the time that he was telling me all of this, he was a source of supply that he had. He was fucking a married woman, and I had no idea about this. He was bringing me into. Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. You got your headphones on. You're a podcaster.
TT's not here.
Yeah, you can't hear TT. Okay. Go lay in Mama and Dada's bed. Okay. And I'll be in there in 2 minutes. I promise.
Mama, how did she do?
Yeah, Mama's just talking to TT. And I'll be right in there. Okay.
Rain.
Okay. You can stay in the office. Go on. Kim.
So we're just making this work. I love this podcast with the little dictator coming around.
Listen, I have guests on where they're like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's life. I'm not, this podcast was never meant for perfection. Like,
I
it's
don't-
fine.
I love it. This is life. This is where we're at.
Yeah.
I had found all this stuff out about this other woman, but not until the shit really hit the fan. He had come back into my life, but it was where only my sister knew. And I was going over to my dad's for Christmas. And he had took me to his parents' house the night before, which was bullshit. Worst meal I've ever had in my whole life. And I had gone to my dad's, and then I was going to meet Courtney and Matt at China Cafe. It's one of our like rituals, but he was not welcome because of so much bullshit that he's pulled. So it was not time for him to be involved in the family unit. That's where a narcissistic injury I placed on him. So when I got back he started some bullshit when I was at my Christmas dinner with my sister and my brother-in-law. And at dinner, he wanted to ruin my dinner because he was pissed that he wasn't involved. And like, how dare I not involve him with my family? And he had me showed up at his. So he started with I made a mistake. I can't do this. And this was on Christmas Day, you guys. We had exchanged gifts, everything. So whatever came out, came out. I show up at his house and I was like, are you really doing this on Christmas? He said, yep. And as I'm sitting there talking to him, he's texting another woman. And I said, who are you texting? And I saw the text, I'm dealing with her now. Are you okay? And I was like, who are you talking to? So whatever. I put 2 and 2 together. I see her name. So as he's talking, I start DMing her on Instagram, some drama that just is dumb. I find out this whole like affair. She's married with kids. She's in the program. I've sat in rooms with her where I was like, why is this chick staring? Whatever. So I had gotten to the point where it pushed me to the edge. It's like another woman I had to deal with. He ends up dropping me off on a curb on Christmas, throws my gift out of the car, and just he's stonewalling me and just is silent. And I'm just like upset. So I let that sit for a few days. I had this picture of him. I don't know what happened or what broke, but I was so furious. And then I had to listen to this girl being like, he told me he loved me, and that trip he took you on in San Francisco, this restaurant that you went to, yep, I'm the one who recommended that. I said, he told me that his guy friend recommended that. So I'm just like getting fed all this information, and I'm just like, bitch, I can't deal with you. I end up blocking her, and I'm like, you are trash. So I end up emailing her husband that I found on LinkedIn because I'm like a secret FBI agent when it comes to the internet, right? So I let him know what's going on and that she's a complete menace and that she's not actually working a program and is over at his house relapsing, just being a pig, as she has children at home, right? Just children. But I now look at it, I can't blame her because he was lying to her like he was lying to me, and she was not well, like newly sober. I was doing fine. I just had it with this dude. I had this picture of him, and it's the most unflattering picture. It's just him like standing in his Calvin Klein, like tidy whities, but they were like dark, whatever, and like socks. And I was like trying to use my tools. Like my therapist was like, yeah, just if you're mad at, like, write it out, whatever.
Listen, sometimes you're just not going to be healthy. Okay. When you've been pushed to the brink, you do what you got to do.
Yes. So I decided I love Andy Warhol. So that era of like pop art. So I just started on his picture I made a masterpiece. It was like neon words. It was like Disneyland dad, narcissist. I just fucking threw all this shit. Womanizer, fucks married women, gets his girlfriend pregnant on purpose, forces her to have an abortion, like all of this stuff, like just threw out the tea, like gaslighter, serial killer or serial dater, STDs, and everything that I put on there was true. It was true. Everything was true. So I held on to that for a couple days, and then as that chick had gotten a hold of me some other way, however she found my information. And it pissed me off what she said to me because she just wouldn't stop. So I knew his I had his Instagram. He hadn't blocked me. And I was like, had his account, something. All of a sudden, I lost my mind. I went crazy. And I had my MacBook, my iPad, and my phone set up. And I just started mic dropping this beautiful piece of art to expose him into all of his friends that he follows, DMs on Instagram. So as I'm doing it all from the accounts. And as this was happening, people had started like reporting the picture.
Mhm.
Reporting. And I was sending it from ghost account. Like I was fucking being a toxica, like whatever. So this he was exposed. And these are people who thought like he was a good guy. And these were like exes. And the exes were probably like, finally justice is served. But like his clients, his boss, everything, his sponsor, people in the program. And then I like put lying about being an addict because he's just in the program for show. It's not, this guy never had his problem is his narcissism. He never dealt with addiction. He got caught for a DUI and he got thrown into a room and he figured that he could be a chameleon there and it made him look like a good guy, just a predator. So this is what I'm realizing I was dealing with. So all of that happened. So then there was obviously fallout. So after that, the next day, I get a phone call and it was from the city where we lived in. And I was like, I answer the phone and I'm like, hello. And they said, yes, can I please speak to Kimberly Elledge? And I said, you're speaking to her. How can I help you? And he said, this is so-and-so from the blank police department. And we have a problem here. And he said his name in my lobby. I said, let me guess. I'm going to stop you right there. Is he standing next to some old decrepit fuck who it looks like a smug prick? And I said, that's his sponsor. And he goes, yes, actually, that's how he introduced. And I said, oh, I'm sure it was. Now, mind you, this was during the Me Too movement. So this was right when all of these predators were getting exposed and all hashtag Me Too was everywhere. So he said he's coming in and he's talking about harassment and defamation of character and this and that. And I said, okay, let me stop you right there. What are you talking about? And he said, there's a picture that he just showed me that's been put on accounts. And I said, okay. I said, did it come from my account? And he goes, no, it did not. I said, all right, I didn't do that. But let's just say that I did. I go, I've seen the picture because it got circulated around. I go, let's just say I did. I said, his name was never used. His little beady black dark eyes were blocked out. And everything on that picture, from what I've heard, allegedly, I know those to be true. So where is the point that any laws were broken or crossed? And he goes, huh. He goes, you're right. And I said, I know. And he goes, you are walking a fine line though. And I said, I'm not doing anything because I didn't do it. So let's start there. And I said, let me tell you something about the fucking piece of shit that's standing in your lobby right now. I was like, he is a predator in your community. I said, he runs through 12-step rooms preying on women. I was like, he's an abuser. He spreads disease in your community. He gaslights, uses, manipulates women. And then he wants to come and show up at a police department and spin a story of victimization. I said, that demon has had me in the depths of hell. He's left me homeless. He's told me that he wanted to start a family. He's gotten me pregnant only to leave me at a clinic and not show up on time and completely abandon me through an abortion that he forced me to have. And I said, and he is a serial cheater and a liar. And he's going to cause problems in your community because one day a husband is either going to beat the fuck out of him or kill him because he loves to fuck married women. So I go, here's my other problem. You chose to listen to these two men standing in your lobby as opposed to maybe thinking that this woman who allegedly sent this picture around. And he just was like, yeah, I could just hear this man, his breathing. He finally started to fall into like from being like a cop to human. And I said, the fact that you right now in this Me Too movement, I go, you are aware that there's a movement going on right now, right? Where women are fucking fed up and are done being like abused by men. And I said, and he goes, yeah, I'm aware. I said, okay, I said, so the things that I just told you are very personal. And I go, the fact that you wouldn't think to have a female officer call an abused woman is really beyond me. And I said, and that shows where you guys are at in your police department, and that maybe you guys need to, you got too many men running things over there, or what's going on. But the fact that you wouldn't have a woman call me so I could explain this, and I just told you very embarrassing things that have happened to me in this relationship and the positions that he's put me in. And I said, instead, you choose to come at me in an authoritative way, like I'm supposed to back down and be scared. But here's the deal. I don't fuck with you guys. I don't care if you're a cop, if you're an FBI agent, if you're the president of the United States. What that piece of shit in your lobby did is wrong. And he fucking reps your city like a motherfucker, just loves being from there. He works for a prominent business in your community that's well known through the metropolis. And I said, my last question to you is, do you have a daughter? And he was like, I do. And I said, imagine if because everything I just told you was true. And I said, and by the way, it's all documented because through texts and emails and doctor's appointments and this and that. And I said, it's all true what I'm saying. I was like, I don't have a reason to lie. And I said, what if somebody was doing this to your daughter? Would you want some fucking dickhead cop calling her, coming at her sideways, trying to intimidate her and telling her that she's walking a fine line? I said, he's the one that's walking a fine line. So why don't you flip the script and go back and tell that pussy he created all of this, and for him to run to the fucking police, which he already knows I already don't fuck with you guys. So he's trying to scare me. I said, tell him to fucking fix his behavior and stop being a menace out here on the streets and stop wasting your time. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and we're done. We're done with this. Me too. We're done. And he just stopped and he goes, I am so sorry. So then it's like me being me and just like not backing down and being so fed up. And he goes, I am so sorry. And he goes, can I just say something to you? That I would tell my daughter. And I said, yes. And he was like, do yourself a favor and just take time and heal and don't ever go back to him. And I am so sorry that all of this has happened to you. And he goes, and I believe you. And I said, and I got choked up and I said, it was like, it wasn't validating because like my family knew but from that network of town, because everyone thought like I was the crazy asshole and like I'm this like insane person. And it's like reactive abuse, right? So then they get to sit back and be like, see, I told you she's crazy. Because that fucking neon pop art mic drop in everyone's DMs, that was wild. It was rowdy, but it's, dude, don't fuck with, I'm so done with you. So I'm going to embarrass you. Like you've been embarrassing me for years. And that cop said, he apologized to me and I got choked up. And when he said, I believe you, and he goes, I'm going to tell him to go home. And don't ever fucking come back here with any of this nonsense. And I said, I appreciate you. Happy New Year. I'm just out here trying my best. And I know I don't deserve this. And I'm glad that it didn't get to the point where you would have to go after a woman for allegedly putting the truth out there in the form of a neon pop art. Some people just love Andy Warhol. And so I got off the phone with the cop. And can you imagine the look on him and his sponsor's face? Because they thought they fucking had me in that police lobby. They thought that they had me. And the fact that the cop went out there and told them pretty much to fuck off was everything I needed in that moment.
Yeah, he thought that he won. So, but that pop art, it's beautiful, you guys. It's beautiful. We won't use it as a cover of LOTE this week, but it is beautiful. Your TT's funny, buddy. She is. Colin even just said she is.
Yeah, she is. So that is my stories from the streets. And sometimes you just got to draw a little pop art and embarrass a motherfucker. And it did, because 4 days after I got it was New Year's Eve, 4 days after I get the call from the police department, then I get a call from this piece of shit's father. And then he thinks he's going to intimidate me. And he calls.
I forgot that the dad called you. I forgot that.
Yeah. A 40-something-year-old man's dad called me to let me know he wanted me to go on the internet. Y'all, hilarious. Wanted me to go on the internet. And he was very stern, very angry, like I was supposed to be scared. This piece of shit doesn't know how I was raised and who my father is and the type of people I've dealt with. So like, it really infuriated them that I was who I was, because like
they couldn't
my ex.
control.
they couldn't control him. My ex was used to dealing with controllable women, and his dad has a controlled housewife at home. And so I just blew their fucking minds. And he started with, "What you're gonna do?" And I said, "Oh, hi." I said, "Happy New Year to you. I don't know why you would even think that this is appropriate, you calling me. I'm an adult. I know you don't look at your son like an adult because you enable him all through his adult years." And I said, "But I am not that. So you need to watch how you speak to me. And if you want to have any type of constructive conversation here, it's not going to be this. I'm not your abused wife. I'm not your fucking controlled daughter. And I'm definitely not your dipshit son. So try again. What do you want?" And he goes, "What I want you to do is you go on the internet," and blank, his name, is very upset. He hasn't been able to get back out of bed. You've ruined his New Year's. And I said, "Oh," I said, "he's ruined the past 4 years of my life. What are you talking about?" And I said, "Okay, I'm so sorry his feelings are hurt, but what was done was done." And I said, "You think you guys are the only one that come from money in this network?" I said, "We also have lawyers, and you have no idea my family and who I work for and what can be done." And he goes, "Oh, wow, there you go. What are you going to go run to your daddy?" And I said, "That's very funny coming from you, seeing as I'm on the phone with someone's daddy." I said, "I would never tell my dad any of this or have him call somebody. Like, that's embarrassing.
Embarrassing.
Your son needs to handle his scandal. And I feel sorry for your wife. And I see that the apple does not fall far from the tree. And this is where he's learned all of this from." And I said, "So what is it that you think that you want me to do, or that you think I'm going to do? I need you to go on the internet and apologize and just let everybody know that you were out of sorts." I said, "Out of sorts. This is not the 1920s, or this is not back in the day where we were burning witches at the stake for women just being like outspoken. Like, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? I am not out of sorts. I'm very in my right mind. And I know that, like, you guys are the biggest pieces of shit. Not only have I gone up against the police department, all of his flying monkeys, his employer, him, his sponsor. Now I'm going up against you, Mr. Patriarch." I was like, "So you can go fuck yourself, and I will never apologize for anything that I did." And I just hung up the phone.
I forgot his dad called. Oh my God. Like, who gets their parents involved? I know some people who do this, but honestly, it's just like, God. And then, listen, on the flip side, because we've had to be the adults, we've had to be the parent since we were super young. Like, we don't know what that's like to be able to run, and it's not healthy, be able to run to parents and be like, "Fix this for me."
It turned it again.
You know what I mean?
His network fixes everything for him. That's why he's just never learned a hard lesson. But let me tell you, in 5 years, he had to learn a lot of hard lessons, because there were moments where I just would not. I am who I am, and don't fuck with me
Yeah.
too. But yeah, it wasn't my best moment. Definitely sticking up to the cop and sticking up to his dad was my finest moment. But me being a toxico with the internet drama was not. But you know what? If I had a choice in time and could say I wouldn't do it again, I would definitely do it again.
Do it again, because you were so artistic. That was art therapy.
And this is how much of fucking sickness these fucks have. And I was also like codependently sick at the time. This motherfucker came back to me. And after that conversation I had with his dad, the following Christmas, I showed up and he introduced himself and he's, "Hi, let's try this again." I said, "Let's try this again." And I have continued to go on vacations with this family after all of that craziness. And this is just how they enabled and the sick. And like when we went on that vacation, we had a good time, and they finally got to see like me for me and saw like a different side and a different version. And we had a good time, but definitely like a sick family unit. And then enough was enough. With that last break, it was done. I couldn't take it anymore. It was same old fuckery with him. It was done. But yes, he came back. If I swear to God, Courtney, if somebody ever mic dropped neon me standing there in my underwear looking like a slob and started like tagging like words in neon and just like the most horrific things that could have been true for his case, they were, I would never show my face in the streets. But that just shows how narcissists, they have no shame. And it's about the control. And he wanted to regain it with me because he had lost so much. And none of his tactics were working, not even the police. Give me a break.
And on the flip side, too, of the good people of the world listening, like just think of how many women, I'm not saying that killing is the way to go, but like how many of these women, and I'm sure men too, right? Because it happens both ways, but where these people just snap and they end up killing somebody and just because they can't take it anymore, because they are so emotionally abused and so broken down as a human being.
I
And
hyper fixated on burning his house down.
right, I'm
I-
sure.
No, like literally, I called my friend Leah one night. I was like, you got to come get me. And this was when he was in LA. I said, I'm going to burn this. I'm going to Lisa left eye this shit. I'm going to burn it down. And
Yeah.
he was like, I'm coming to get you right now. I was like, I'm not even kidding. Like this guy has me fucking, I'm going to burn this house down. Cause it like represented like all the lies and everything. And I was just like, there were so many memories in there. I was like, fuck this house. That's where it took me. So I was like, please come get me.
Well, that's the
Or
whole
I'm going to burn
thing
it down.
Of how many women have been painted the picture of being quote unquote crazy, and that it was like, and then they snapped and it was like, oh, good gaslighting of, oh, look what this crazy bitch did. And it's, you don't know the story behind it. You don't.
Yeah. That's why whenever somebody tells me like this last one that I dealt with, that when I cut it off real quick, but I'm sitting there listening and he's calling somebody who he was with for years like a psycho and crazy and this and that. And me, that just doesn't resonate well, because it's okay. What did you do to her to make her be like that? Because you're calling her all these things, and it's everyone plays a part. And women don't just like, for them to get like that, that means they loved you and that something in the relationship traumatic happened. Like for the most part, women aren't just like crazy off the rip and just, or else, men wouldn't be with them. So it's, what did you do to her? And what did she do? The reactive abuse to be crazy. What the fuck did you do? And now these are like the questions that I ask blatantly, because I said, what did you do? What do you mean? And I was like, what did you do? Because women just don't behave out of sorts. Like they're pushed to that. Because I was pushed to that. And here we are. So like I said before, when people are talking, if you just shut the fuck up and sit back and listen, it's very telling. They'll tell everything.
Very telling. I think we're going to wrap this up. Thank you for sharing stories on the street. So we wanted to share that with you because, you know what, though? You sharing that, I'm sure someone too is, oh, I did something fucked up.
Everyone has
Everybody.
in
Right.
toxic relationships. It's not just one-sided. So I just had enough and pushed them. And I also had learned so much about narcissism and really knew it's all about image. So that was just like, I weaponized his own shit against him. And he always forgot that he was dealing with a smart, slick one. But I always let him know what time it was. Always. And I did. If I could do it again, I would. I don't give a shit.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. As always, make sure, if you have not yet, to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. If you appreciated the series, reach out to my sister and I on Instagram or email me at sobervibes@gmail.com and let me know. All right. Thanks, sister, for sharing your truth.
No problem. And thanks, little CJ, for being on the podcast today. We love you. And good people of the world, we love you. I'm going to sign out with my sister saying, keep on trucking.